and started talking about having booster shots?
Perhaps, but I think it's probably more driven simply by the science. It looks like the Delta variant, that it is more, that over time it seems like the vaccinations are not as effective as they used to be. And so we're sort of going back to a tried and true strategy.
During this pandemic, no good or bad deed goes unpunished or uncriticized. The Biden administration looking at these booster shots. Some scientists are saying we really don't need them. There's still plenty of good protection for those vaccinated against being hospitalized or from dying or getting real sick. Others are saying that while we're giving our people in this country their third shot, people in the third world can't even get their first shot. Don't they make a good point? If we don't get the vaccine out and the whole world vaccinated, we're never going to get out of this pandemic.
That's true. I mean, you can hardly fault a country for first trying to take care of its own. I think it's one where we should be able to do both. We ought to be able to take care of ourselves and others. And as you point out, particularly within our own hemisphere, if it's running rampant elsewhere, it's likely to get back, and it may be a variant that's even more deadly than the Delta variant.
As the virus has gone back up, the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics has issued to ask people ought to have mask mandates, particularly in schools. So some school boards in Tennessee have imposed mask mandates. This week, Governor Bill Lee decided not to do a special session of the legislature, instead issued an executive order saying that any mask mandates must also include an opt-out for parents to keep their children from having to wear masks. Some school systems are backing off, but some like Nashville and Shelby County are not. Is this matter headed to the courts?
It definitely is. And in fact, there have been some court decisions, most of which seem to have upheld mask mandates. The difficulty here, of course, is, it's one thing for somebody to say, I'm going to wear a mask even though it's not required. That doesn't hurt anybody. But if you're saying, I'm not going to wear a mask even when others do, you may, in fact, be a carrier.
President Biden got involved this week. It seems we're going to have all three levels of government involved in the mask mandate fight in Tennessee. He didn't mention Governor Lee by name, but he said some governors are playing politics with children in the schools. He pledged support for the local schools in their fight over masks. The president's asking the Federal Department of Education to begin investigating this. There's been a letter sent to the governor about this. Apparently it's a violation of state law because perhaps we're not keeping a proper atmosphere or a safe atmosphere for children in the schools. So this is now going to become a federal case as well.
Very likely. One of the fascinating things is that a lot of conservative, particularly Republican governors, are the ones that seem to be issuing these broad mandates, whereas my understanding of Republican Federalist philosophy was always local control. And you would think that a school board in Memphis or in Nashville or in Rutherford County, wherever it is, might be in a better situation to assess safety for their schools than somebody in the governor's office or even the president's office.
Along with mandating masks, there's also a fight over mandating vaccinations. There's been at least one case involving education in some of the universities across the country. I think Indiana University, where one Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, upheld a vaccination mandate there. Are we going to see more cases like this, and which way do you think they'll go? We only have this one major case to look at so far.
Yeah, I think that we will have more cases. That there's one Supreme Court decision back in 1905, Jacobson versus Massachusetts, which suggests that governments can, in fact, enforce vaccination mandates. You might have to have exceptions for a group like Christian Scientists or whatever that routinely reject all of these. But even there, often the state will intervene on behalf of children. It's like, you can make these decisions for yourselves, but we're not going to allow you to make a decision that might jeopardize a child.
Dr. John Weil, Middle Tennessee State University political science professor, is our guest on Inside Politics. We're talking about issues going on across the country this week. To continue our conversation after this break.